up if you get it. All right, we're live. So, like the participle is a verbal adjective, the infinitive functions like a verbal noun with some. So it can do much that the noun can do, although there are some nuances with it. And similar to the participle and the subjunctive, recognizing it is not really going to be the difficulty. It's really understanding how it is being used, a function. And so we're going to spend some time with that. And I'll tell you up front, I'm not a scholar or an expert in the functions of the infinitive. I can recognize an infinitive in a heartbeat, but is it a complementary infinitive? Is it subjective infinitive, articular infinitive? Those things take a little more effort on my part. So don't be concerned if you're like, okay, I don't really get it all. What you will get is that it's an infinitive. Now, how it functions will take a little more time. So that caveat, let's go ahead and begin. So when we're talking about an infinitive, we're talking a verbal noun, just like the participle is a verbal adjective. So that means it has two components. It has a verbal component and a noun component, in the same way the participle has a verbal component and an adjective component. So as a verbal noun, the dog jumped over the table. The word jump is a verb, and it describes what the action of the dog, right? But in an infinitive form, to jump is difficult for the dog. The phrase to jump functions as a subject of the verb that is difficult. Again, recognizing the infinitive in English, you're just not going to have any trouble. To jump is an infinitive in English and will be in Greek as well. That's how we're generally translated. In English, the infinitive is formed by the word to plus a verb. You see them all the time. You probably don't think about it, but they're there all the time and you know it. As a verb, okay, so we were looking at what an infinitive is in definition. But as a verbal component, as an infinitive, it has its emphasis is on aspect, not time. Time has no relative function for the infinitive. Most of the non-indicative forms, the moods, will not have we mentioned before, like the participle. The time, if it exists, it's going to be relative to the main verb, but in most cases it doesn't really play a part. What does play a bigger part is aspect. Perfective aspect, imperfective, or combinative. Jake, what's the perfective aspect referring to?
Perfective is a past completed action.
Okay, we typically do that to past completed, but it's really more of an undefined kind of action, right?
Right.
That's why
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's why we typically use the aorist tense, because the aorist tense will generally reflect a undefined kind of action. What about the imperfective, Samuel?
It's a ongoing action.
Yeah, some kind of continuous, in some form, iterative kind of process. And that's why we typically use the present tense to reflect the imperfective action. Combinative, of course, would be like the perfect tense, where something is completed with ongoing results or impact. So aspect is the major function. The problem with aspect, especially in the infinitive, it's difficult, especially in the present. It is difficult to get that across in English. It doesn't come across well. The Greek speakers, and you and I are not Greek speakers, the Greek speakers would have grasped it immediately, I believe. But for English, we just struggle with correlating or translating that aspect into the English. Secondly, here's something that's a little different. As a verb, an infinitive can take a direct object or it can be modified by an adverb. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. In other words, as a verb, it can take an object and accuse of it. But when it does, it's often functioning as the subject, the infinitive verbs. And so we'll get there later. Also, non-indicative moods or verb like the infinitive doesn't use the oo or ook to negate. It uses the may. And so when you see the mu eta, you know you're dealing with a non-indicative verb, whether it be an infinitive or subjunctive or something of that nature. Here's an example. Well, rather than me read it, one of you guys, whoever is the most bravest in the group, whoever is the smartest in the group, whoever is the best looking in the group, go ahead and translate.
Oh, let me go.
Go ahead and read this, and then the other one will have to translate it.
Okay, I'll start. I'll read it then. De ton yon tu anthropo pola. I pronounced that wrong probably.
You did good.
Pathane.
Okay, very good. Now, the only thing I would say is it's huion. That's a rough breathing with the H. Huion. But other than that, it's exactly perfect. So it's good. Samuel, can you translate any of that? Some of that should be familiar.
Yeah. Anthropo is of man.
Right. Okay.
Of person or what have you.
Right.
The Yulion looks like sun.
Yeah, I was about to say son or descendant.
Right. So ton huion would be the son, right? So
Okay.
put that together. The son of what?
Man.
The son of man.
Son of man. Okay, so there you've got half of it translated. What about you recognize any of the rest?
I don't.
Okay, so it is necessary for the son of man. I'm trying to remember pathane. Now I've gone forgot. Here's our infinitive pathane. The next one. Yeah, the son of man suffer. That's what I could remember. So must suffer many things. Okay, so here's where the infinitive is functioning as a subject, but this is where it's unique for the infinitive. One thing about the infinitive is they don't decline. Remember how our nouns decline? You'd have the different case endings for nominative, for accusative,
Right.
or a dative, or a genitive. Infinitives do not decline, and that does make it easier to recognize because it's very consistent. But they do function oftentimes as a subject. And what it will do, here's our infinitive, it will take the accusative, this is the accusative, on, we on, it will take the accusative as the subject. So the Son of Man must suffer many things, or to suffer many things. And we'll kind of see that as we go. But here is functioning as a verbal noun, in this case, the subject. And the infinitive of the subject of the infinitive is in the accusative case. That is the must suffer, or the son of man. Okay. I probably messed that up.
No, that makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay. So here's the thing: the infinitive will often take an article, and when it does take an article, it is always neuter and singular.
I love that word always.
Okay, it is. It is always. If it takes an article, it will always be neuter and singular. Okay. So if you remember your neuter and singular articles, to can be accusative or nominative, and to would be our genitive, and to would be the dative. All singular, right? And so. And they can have a variety of case functions, but remember, they don't decline. So the only way you're going to know the case function is the article. Okay? So if it's functioning as a subject, well, it's a little difficult. If it's functioning as a subject, it's going to take the accusative to function as a subject. If it's functioning datively, it's going to take a dative article. If it's functioning genitively, it's going to take a genitive article. When or if it occurs after prepositions, infinitives following prepositions are always articular. Samuel, what does articular mean?
I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
What does articular mean?
Serving as like the article.
Yeah, the article. It means it has the article. The article is present. Anarthrous would be without the article. So here's the point. If it occurs after a preposition, it will have always an article with it, okay? So those are just a few little sort of ground rules that might help you. So as a noun, infinitive can take an article. If it does take one, it's going to be neuter and singular. It can have a variety of different case functions, but the infinitive doesn't decline like nouns do. So the function will be recognized through the article. And if or when the infinitive can occur after a preposition, it will occur with the article. So just a couple of ground rules that kind of help you see how it's functioning. As a verbal noun, the infinitive comes from the word infinite, meaning what? Form is not limited, right? Finite would be limited. So basically, it means exactly that. The form, the infinite, is not limited to a particular person or number. That's why, Jake, it does not decline. There's no number, no plural, no singular. It doesn't have the case endings. It doesn't have a number, a plural, singular, because it's infinite. Uh, if it was finite, it would be limited in with respect, and it would have a number, singular, plural. It would give us more limiting information. But because it's infinite, non-finite, it's not limited to a particular person, or to a particular number, singular, plural. So there's only one form instead of six, right? So it's the same thing over and over again, and it really makes it easy to recognize. For example, in the present, what do we say the present represents in terms of aspect, Jake?
In terms of aspect,
yeah, the present tense for the infinitive, or for really most things. What aspect?
Usually ongoing. Like
right,
present.
This would be called what?
Imperfective.
Imperfective.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the present tense referring to something that's ongoing. And so in the active voice, here's our infinitive ending, luain, to be loosing. And so we have our to loosen. To be loosing would be a form of the translation. Jake, translation of infinitives can be somewhat difficult. So just know going in this that there's not a word for word. It's very idiomatic. And it's something that basically you try to understand what it's saying in Greek and you try to find an English equivalent in translation. In the middle passive for the present infinitive, it's esthai, and it's to be loosed. And notice, let me get my next note here. Okay, the translation is passive. Middle is going to be like to be for loosing oneself. So it's to be loosed means someone loosed me in a passive. Someone did it to me. Or if I did it to myself in the middle, it's to oneself. Difficult translations, not easy in English. So our present infinitive, we'll see luain or luestai. There's our infinitive endings. We'll see those in a minute. In the aorist infinitive, we're only going to have three tenses, by the way. We're going to have the present, the aorist, and the perfect. That's it. And the perfect is only used like 29 or 30 times, I think, in the New Testament. For our aorist infinitives, much like our aorist in participles and others, we're going to have our aorist morpheme, sigma alpha, and then, of course, we use the theta eta in the passive form. But here's our infinitive ending, our infinitive endings. And so the active aorist, now there's no augment, right? There's no augment there. because time is not a factor. So the argument doesn't exist. It's not necessary. If the argument was there, it's not going to be an infinitive or a participle either. So active lucai, to loose, lususai, to loose oneself, luthenai, to be loose. Someone loosed you, that kind of thing. So notice that the aorist has no argument. So present and aorist, and for example, we have aorist infinitives, ago, I think that's it, here we go. Present indicative form versus our second aorist infinitive, agagain, there's our infinitive ending, genopai, genestai, there's our infinitive ending, erkamai, elethane, there's our infinitive ending, labano, labane, there's our infinitive ending. The second aorist, member doesn't use that sigma alpha for the aorist, just like it in all the others, the second aorists. Instead, it has a different tense stem. It's going to use the stem that's closer to the root, actually. Let go, a pain, that's a different tense stem. There's our infinitive ending. Harao is going to different tense stem. Adain. So our second aorist is always going to be a little more difficult in recognizing because it doesn't use the sigma alpha for aorist or the in some cases the sigma. It doesn't use any of those. Instead, it uses a different tense stem. But we'll still have our infinitive endings. They're going to be the same. They'll make it really easy to recognize. Our perfect infinitives, let's see, okay, and there's only, 49 times, that's what it was. It's only about 49 times, usually about 30 different verbs. It's not a lot. And we'll see the same things we see with the perfect, right? We have the reduplication, the lelu, ke, nai, there's our morpheme, ke, nai, there's our infinitive ending, to have loosed, le, lu, stai, there's our middle passive form, to have been loosed. Again, you're not going to have difficulty seeing the infinitive. Probably not difficulty seeing it as a perfect. Probably not much difficulty seeing it as an aorist if it has a first aorist with the sigma alpha or the theta eta for the passive. You're used to those. Probably not much difficulty seeing in the present. It's going to use the present tense stems. So I don't think you have difficulty seeing them. Where we're going to struggle is, okay, now how do we translate it? In one sense, it's very easy to translate. We're going to just put a to in front of it. To eat, to die, to live. That's basically our translation. But the deeper we go, the more we find it can function a little more specifically. And that's kind of what we're going to be looking at next. Verbal aspect, tense versus the aspect. We're talking about tense. We're talking about the time, right? Okay, like all non-indicative verbs, infinitives do not convey the time of action. That is what tense is, the time of action. The various tense forms, though, convey the kind of action or aspect. It's that kind of action. And that's why we talk about perfective, imperfective, and conventive. It's the kind of action that's really the impact here. But it's especially difficult sometimes to bring out that aspectual nuance, that aspectual perspective in English. English just doesn't like it. There are ways to do it, but it's not often considered good English. So oftentimes, especially in the present tense, there's almost no difference between a present or an aorist infinitive because it's just difficult to bring out the various nuance between that imperfective aspect on the present tense versus the perfective aspect on the aorist tense. And so sometimes we'll just have to be too loose, and it doesn't come out well in English. So just note that going in. So here a little bit more about that. The action is a process to continue in the present, right? Perfective, imperfective aspect. The das Gehen, here's our infinitive ending. To be teaching as a process or a periodic custom. Be like to continually teaching, to continuous teaching. You try to find a way to make it in sort of ongoing or iterative kind of process or continuous kind of process, some kind of periodic custom. And it's just not always easy to do. And the error is the simple action, undefined, simple, right? Undefined. The simple or undefined action with no regard to a process. It just did. It just occurred. So das sky, there's our infinitive ending. It has the sigma alpha. What happened to the sigma alpha? It came up against this kappa and became the z. We had those rules before in our noun rules, right? And so we get the das sky to teach simply a specific occasion or one-time thing. Typically, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say to teach or to be teaching. Try to bring the ing for something ongoing. And so this is just a summary of that aspect. We've already seen it before. In the imperfective, it's use the present tense, and you have some sort of continuous action to continually study. Perfective is the aorist tense. It'd be sort of undefined kind of action, and it'd be to study. No definition about time or process related to it. Combinative will be the perfect tense. Something is completed, but ongoing results or ongoing impact, let's say, to have studied. So the implication is to have studied, meaning that something resulted from having studied. And so that's really a summary of Greek aspect of the infinitive. That makes sense so far, guys? We okay? Maybe there's head nod and I couldn't see. Screen's too small for me to see it.
Yeah.
Head nodding versus head check. Okay. Now, here's like the participle, like the aorist, or like the subjunctive. There's a morpheme that tells us it's an infinitive. And they're really very, very simple. They're all going to be the AI ending. All of them. Every single one except the aorist, second aorist, and the present. The present and the second aorist are going to have the same epsilon iota nu ending. The rest of them will have an AI ending: esthi, psi, sasthi, thenai, esthi, anai. Here's our perfect knai, psi. They're just going to have that I ending, and it's going to be pretty recognizable in most cases. So that's the morpheme. That's going to how we identify the verbal nouns in the Greek. Okay, so this is really all you got to recognize. And I tell you, I've never memorized all these, never in my life. I've probably never will. Not that you shouldn't, you probably should. What I do remember is that it's this ending with the I, and of course I could see my aorist there. I could see my aorist there. The aorist is here, but that AI side, if I have my sigma alpha plus my alpha iota ending, something's going to combine, and I end up with this sigma alpha iota ending. This is the only exceptions, and again, they're not hard to recognize. Make sense? Because the infinitive doesn't decline, and so like in the participle, we'd have our verb plus adjective ending, right? Our adjective case endings. Adjective case endings. Okay, we don't have case endings in the infinitive, so we have a verb with these morpheme endings. So these are the morphemes that tell us they're the infinitive, and basically they're they end at the end of the word. That does make it easy to recognize. When you put it with the verb in our present tense, luein, luesthai, the middle, luesthai also for the passive. Okay, no difference. The difference between the two. Active would be to lose. The middle also we would translate to lose. Maybe it's to lose for oneself. The passive is to be loose because it's being done to you. The first aorist is lucai, and there we see our sigma alpha Lusa, there's our signal lusastai. Luthenai, there's our aorist passive form. To loose, again, the middle might be to oneself, to loose oneself. To be loosed, difficult to put it in that passive. We normally just put it as something that's done to us. Second aorist, here, like in the present, we're going to use the ain ending for the active. And we got labain, and here, second aorist is using a different tense stem. Labain, labestai, goraphenai. So to receive, or to receive for oneself, or to be written, done to passively done. In the perfect, we see our reduplication. Lelut ke, there's our perfect morpheme. Lelut kenai, there's our infinitive ending, or infinitive morpheme. There's no case ending, so it just ends with the morpheme. Lelustai, they're the same for middle and passive forms. And it would be to have loosed, or to have loosed for oneself, or to have been loosed, something done to yourself. That makes sense? Are we okay with that so far, guys? Okay, some
Yes.
nodding. Thank you. So translation. Generally, just put to in front of it. That's what we do in English. That's what English is. To die, to eat, to continue. Just remember there's time is not involved, and we're either going to look at something that's continuous, but that continuous is hard to translate to continue for the imperfective. The perfective is typically are undefined, and that's normal how we do an infinitive, to eat. It's undefined. There's no process time associated with that. And it can function as a subject, or the subject will be in the accusative and not the nominative. Okay? So the accusative, or excuse me, the infinitive does not have a case ending. So there's no nominative case ending for an infinitive. But when it's functioning, when the subject of the infinitive will be in the accusative, not the nominative. We'll see that as we do a couple of them, okay? All right, so here's a couple from Romans 14, verse 21. It is good not to eat meat. Let's do it this way. Samuel, you want to do the reading of the Greek?
Yeah. Kalon ta me fagin
Again.
fagain
Again. Yep. Again.
fagain
Yep.
kriya.
Crayon. Right. Crayon. Yeah. That's good. And really hard part, Jake, you want to translate for us?
Yeah, it is good not to eat meat.
Man, I wish I
like
was as good at translating as Jake
I know it.
is.
You're like a genius, man. I tell you what. Okay, so here's our good, right? It's in the accusative. And it is good. There's our article. It's separated by the negating, may. There's our infinitive, the aim. That's in the present or aorist, right? Present. So this is probably in the present because this aim ending. And kreia, and it's from, if I remember right, kreos, meaning meat. And this is in the accusative form. Plural. This is the accusative plural, actually. I'm pretty sure. So it is good not to eat, right? To eat meat. So it is good not to eat meat. And that's really how it's done. So the subject is in the accusative form. I think that's right here. And that's really pretty much what you're doing. Let's look at another one. Mark 1, verse 34. This does not have a translation. We can figure it out, though, I think. I hope. We'll see. Let's reverse it. Sorry, Samuel. Let's reverse it. Jake, would you read and Sam, you translate?
Yeah, Samuel doesn't have a translation, so it might be harder for me. Ook. Ephane.
Yeah, Ephane.
Tas.
Lane Toss, yeah.
Daimonia.
Right. So, do you think you can make any translation out of this? There's some words you should recognize, right? Samuel?
So ook is not.
Right.
La Lane is.
There's our infinitive.
I think it's like speaking.
Right. To speak.
To speak. And isn't daimonia?
Does that mean diamond?
I was thinking demon.
Demon, right? But is it singular or plural? Accusative, plural. Right.
So demons.
Right. Demons. Right. And this word you may not recognize. Ephane is to release, to let go, to release. I think is all I think of. Let's see. We put it in. It's Mark 134. We can look it up. Ephane, Lalain, Pas, Daimania. There's the demons.
I can look it up if you want me to.
So here, wait a minute. Here, he said, the demons. I should have looked up in advance. I didn't.
The New American Standard has permitted.
Wait. No.
Oh.
Yeah, permit is going to make it easier. Do not permit. Do not permit the demons to speak. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the difficulty is that a thing is permit, or in this case, not to permit, or not to loose, or release. But I think permit or authorize or tolerate, I think, is probably the right definition. So, all right. And basically, that's all you're doing with it. So, you notice that what we did is we just made this to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, some odds and ends, we're going to negate, just like any non-indicative mood, we're going to use the negation may. Parsing is very simple because there is no declensions, there is no declining. We're just going to talk about the tense, the voice, and refer to as an infinitive. Present tense, active infinitive. Aorist, passive infinitive. That's it. And I should have got rid of this middle only deponent. I don't believe in the deponent stuff. Well, I should have deleted that, and I didn't. Now let's talk about the little more, I don't say difficult. I'm not as comfortable in understanding and even expressing the various nuances in translation with this. So we're going to walk through it together. Excuse me. And we're going to use the book because it does a decent job. So if we use the book and we start on page 371, that's what we're going over, these 6 uses of the infinitive. So form is one thing, function is another, right? Recognizing the form that is an infinitive, we put 2 in front of it. Okay, now how does it function? Well, it functions as an infinitive. Okay, but how does it function in the syntax, in the sentence? And that's kind of what we want to look at. So the first one they talk about in the 6 basic uses of the infinitive is called substantive, or often an articular infinitive, because the infinitive will have an article with it. And so, for example, emoi is, Jake, do you remember emoi, what it means? It's emphatic because of this epsilon, otherwise it's just moi.
You're muted, Jake.
It was probably a great answer.
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic answer. No, I don't remember it. My guess would be me or we.
Yeah,
But
that's right. It is.
oh
And
wow, okay.
because very good. Well, I mean, basically, it might be your guess, but probably based on the fact that you have seen it before, and it's kind of like, me, and it's in the dative, and it's emphatic. So it would generally be it's to the dative, to me, with me, by me, with, by, whatever the dative would support for that context. Me, of course, because it's emphatic, it's me, not you, right? It's emphasizing me. So to me, and then we have, here's our infinity. Now, our problem with this one is this Zane does not look like an infinity. And I struggled with this, and I was like, So I did some research. Basically, it is an infinitive, but there is contraction with the letters to get this aim. And I didn't want to try to go through it because I don't remember it all and I didn't write it, but I did go through it. It's just based on contraction. It does have the epsilon, iota, nu is the infinitive form here, which would be the present tense. So to me, and this would, remember what Zane is?
Life.
Yeah, okay. To live, to me, to live is Christ, right? For to me, to live is Christ, and the rest would be what? To die
is
is
gain.
Right, there you go. So here we could see that what's happening, let me clean this up a bit. What's happening is this is being used as a substantive. Substantive means it's going to be a subject or object or some other noun function, right? So here is moi, to me, to live. Well, it's functioning as the subject. To live is Christ. To die, which also would be an infinitive, is gain. So this infinitive here is being used as a substantive, in this particular case, as a subject. Where to me, for me, actually, we would say for me, because the dative would be for me. That would be more of in English, a prepositional phrase, not in Greek. That's where I was struggling. But basically, a clause that emphasizing to me or for me to live as Christ and to die as gain. Does that make sense? So I guess they're head nods or head shakes. I don't know. So if you look on 371, that pretty much covers, I think, that. Those are not really hard to recognize or translate. The next one, complementary infinitive. There are 5 different verbs that always have a complementary infinitive. You go on page 372, they're listed there. And we're going to use, in this particular case, we're going to use the infinitive form to eat. Estein, estein, estein. So we're going to use with all 5 verbs. And notice the first one there. And let's talk about what a complementary infinitive is. Complementary infinitive is basically just going to give you information that complements the verb, right? So a finite verb meaning is incomplete apart from some additional information. So infinitive is often used to complete that meaning, right? So that would be, so infinitive is used this way. It's called a complementary infinitive to give us additional information about the finite verb. So notice the 5 verbs. De, obtain, seeing. It is necessary. There's de. It is necessary. It must for her to eat. There's the obtain for her to eat. So the complementary infinitive is it's necessary is the verb, and to eat is the complementary infinitive. It's complementing the verb. I don't know how to explain it beyond that. Next one, same thing to eat. Ex esten, es theaim, auto. It is lawful, ex esten, for him, there's the auto, to eat. The complementary infinitive is to eat, supporting the verb ex estem. Then melo always requires a complementary infinitive. Melo esteen. I'm about to. Melo, I'm about to. I'm about. I'm about what? Well, you need something to finish it. That's what the complementary infinitive does. I'm about to eat. Dunamai, esestain. Dunamai always requires an infinitive. I am able. What do you mean you're able? You're able what? Well, I'm able to eat. That's the complementary infinitive. Arkomai, I'm beginning. And you're beginning to do what? I'm beginning to eat. Estein. That's what a complementary infinitive does. It finishes and gives us additional information about the verb. And so there's other verbs that can be used that doesn't always require an infinitive, but often does. Thelo. Thelo is I wish. If I just say I wish, you're going to go like, you wish what? I wish to eat. Estén. So you need something to help bring the meaning or the purpose of that verb out to complement it, and that's what the infinitive does here. Thelo, kaluo, I command. You command what? Athelo, I ought. You ought to what? I ought to eat, or lest I die. So that's really what a complementary infinitive does. It just gives us more information about it. But notice we're still translating to eat. We haven't changed that. We're just looking how it's being used in its sentence. Okay. The other one has even more components to it. A preposition plus the articular infinitive. Articular, as Sam pointed out earlier, means it has a noun. So a noun with the infinitive, the preposition will always have an articular infinitive. So look on the bottom of page 32.14. Articular infinitive and a preposition. While the articular infinitive is preceded by a preposition, there are specific rules for translation. Okay, and that's what we're going to look at next. The preposition will always precede the infinitive. In the case of the article, is determined by the preposition. Remember, the infinitive is not declined. So it's not going to be an accusative case. Our preposition is going to be an accusative, dative, genitive. The infinitive will not, but the article associated will be, and that's how you know. So ultimately, look at the very top of page 373. Let's see if I have that in the next slides. No. All right, so I have it further on, but we'll just do a general overview. We already did this one. This is substantive. All right, emoi, to, sein, Christos. Christos, to me, to live is Christ, and then to die is gain. Complementary infinitive, exapto, lalein. I'm trying to remember exapto. That's to speak, right? That's to speak. I don't remember exapto. I don't remember. Let's see if it's in the book. Maybe I can cheat.
Hey, we don't either, so we're in the same boat.
Yeah. Okay, it is. It's Acts 2, verse 4. They began to speak. So there's that's just from Erkamai, okay, or Erkamai, or from Arkamai. Excuse me, that's right, Arkamai. Should have recognized that. So that's from Arkamai, and so Exapto is they began to speak from Acts 2 something, verse 4, when they're speaking in other tongues. All right, here we go. Now, with a preposition, again, the preposition, right, is going to give us a case. Prepositions don't decline, but they have function in various cases. Dia is a preposition with the accusative. Ace is with the accusative. Cross is with the accusative. Dia, I think, can also be in the genitive. But when it's in the accusative, it will take an accusative object. But infinitives don't decline. So it will take an accusative article. That's why the article is always with the infinitive. Uh-oh, my AirPods are going to die. My AirPods are dead, guys. Okay. Sorry. I charged them all the way up this morning. Can you still hear me a little bit?
Yeah.
All right, let me go quick and we'll close out because of the noise behind us. All right, so notice on page 373, dia to blepein auton. Dia is a preposition. It's going to have the infinitive blepein, and it's going to use the article ta. It's going to have an article. That article is an accusative because dia is the accusative, and auton. And so there it would be, and dia is used for a reason. If you notice in top of page 373, number 1, 2, and 3 are dealing with either reason or purpose. So we get into a little more nuance about prepositions. Dia is always going to be associated with a reason or purpose. Ace is going to be a purpose. Cross is going to be a purpose. And so we keep the same infinitive, ta blepein, auton, ta blepein, auton, ta blepein, auton, and we have ace, ta blepein, auton, cross, ta blepein, auton. It's going to be in order that he sees, or because he sees, or well, actually, ace, ta blepein, auton, and cross, ta blepein, auton are both in order that he sees, for him to see. Okay, that's on page 373. Then I'm not going to go through those. They're the same ones we just did right there, right? So dia is more of a deal with a reason or because, right? So because he sees. Ace is more of a purpose for or in order that. In order that he see, he can see. How does that translate? In order that he sees, yeah. Cross also is going to be a purpose in order that he sees. It'll be the same translation. And then you have, looking at page at top 374, you have where prepositions and functions with a temporal, time related, right? Pra in the genitive refers to before time. In the dative, when time. And meta in the accusative, after time. And so, pra tu blepein auton, the same phrase this time in the genitive, the same phrase this time in the dative, same phrase this time in the accusative, right? Pra in the genitive, pra tu blepein auton, basically before he sees. So before he sees. In the dative, when or when he sees. Meta in the accusative would be more for after. Meta would be after he sees. And so our prepositions give us a purpose or reason. And we can also get time related. So here, pra is going to be for before, and it's in the genitive because pra, this does not decline. There's our infinitive. This declines, so we know it's functioning with the pra, and it would be before he sees. Same thing here in the dative. There's our dative. Does not decline. He, and so it would be more like when he sees. It's temporal function. Meta after he sees. And so that's where we're just looking at the purpose. Ace or pros plus the articular infinitive. And the articular infinitive to blepein autos. There's a genitive form in infinitive. I don't know why I have that. All right, we already did these. Results, we already did this. Hostet plus an infinitive is going to be basically results. I don't want to go through all this because of the background noise. I'm sorry. And then the next one, indirect discourse on page 375 and 376. So you could do a direct discourse, and we normally put quotation marks. Jake said he doesn't like the background noise. Okay, but that's direct discourse because that's what he said, so we put that in quotation marks. Indirect discourse is not directly what he says, but it's kind of like what he said. And so you often find hati, that would indicate indirect course. He said that, you don't like this noise. And it would be with the indicative. And so in the infinitive, Sadducees who say there's no resurrection. That would be an indirect discourse because they're not quoting the Sadducees. They're giving a general understanding of what the Sadducees were saying. We did that, and that's the class. I'm sorry, my AirPods died, and I've got all this noise behind me. I apologize.
It's no problem.
Any thoughts or questions, guys?
So that last one that you mentioned, that's like if I was to recap what you said to someone.
Let me see if I'll get a volume issue on my side. Oh, you know what? I'm still showing up there.
He's trying to hear you, Sam.
Oh, I was just going to say that last thing that you said was it's like if you recapped what someone had said. You're on mute.
Indirect would be like a recap of what someone said. It's not a quote. That's what indirect discourse would be. You're indirectly restating what they said, but it's not direct.
Okay.
It's not a quote.
Almost like a he said, she said kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not going down that path, though.
Yeah.
I won't get in trouble. So.
And the prepositions was honestly pretty straightforward. I thought.
Well, thank you. A lot of this is okay. So if we build on what we already know, right? We understand what prepositions do. They can serve, and we've kind of touched on this before. That's why I introduced it a while back. The prepositional phrase can function as a substantive, or can function to modify a verb. And it can serve to give purpose or results or sometimes a temporal time. When he did this, after he did that. And so the different things with the infinitives is they don't decline. You know, it's a verbal noun that doesn't decline. There's no declining in the noun function. So the article carries that role for it. And that helps us a lot, I think.
Definitely. Cool. Thanks, Dave.
We're kind of early, so my earpods are actually working right now, so that helps a little bit. It might be just what, for some reason, stopped working with my iPad. Any questions, guys? You okay?
I'm good.
All right. Well, do me a favor. I need to. I've got to do some planning for teachers in the summer and in the fall. So y'all look at those courses and look at PTP. I need to know what plans are so we can figure it out.
I told you that we'd be there for PTP, right?
I don't listen to you, so if you told me I wasn't listening. So. If you did, please put it in writing. Otherwise, I will not remember. And even then, I may have to call back and say, did you tell me this? I can't find it. Just too much going on. I am trying to get some help in the administrative side, so hopefully in time that'll get a little easier. So. All right.
Okay.
All right, guys. Sam, you want to close out with a short prayer?
Yes, sir. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day that you blessed us with. We thank you for Dave and his willingness to teach us. God, thank you for this school, and just ask that you bless all the teachers and the students. We love you and we thank you for all that you do. It's in your son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you guys. Y'all take care, okay?
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.